In northwestern Wyoming lies one of America's most visited national parks, Grand Teton. This park showcases some of the best scenery and wildlife the western United States has to offer, with towering mountains, cascading waterfalls, iconic animals, and so much more. Grand Teton National Park lies 402 miles northwest of Wyoming's capital, Cheyenne. The 310,000-acre park is dominated by Grand Teton Peak along with several lakes, including the massive Jackson Lake, as well as the Snake River and prairie land. The park was established in 1929, and in 1950, the land set aside for Jackson Hole National Monument was absorbed into the park, bringing it to its current size. In 2024, Grand Teton National Park was the 9th most visited national park with approximately 3.6 million visitors. A sub-range of the Rocky Mountains, the Grand Teton Range stretches 40 miles. The tallest peak within the range is Grand Teton, the peak for which the park is named after. It towers 13,775 feet. Only Gannett Peak at 13,810 feet is taller in Wyoming. The Teton Range is comprised mostly of metamorphic rock called gneiss, estimated to be 2.7 billion years old. These rocks were formed when seafloor sediments and volcanic debris were buried 18 miles deep when two tectonic plates collided. The intense heat and pressure at these depths changed the sediments into today's rocks, separating different minerals into lighter and darker layers. Connecting Grand Teton to Yellowstone National Park to the north is the 27-mile John D. Rockefeller Jr. Memorial Parkway, a scenic route with spectacular views of the Grand Teton Range. Flowing through the park is the Snake River. At 1,078 miles, it is the longest tributary to the Columbia River. 1,243 miles long, the Columbia River is the 7th longest river in the United States. While the park receives millions of visitors today, it was originally inhabited by people moving into its valleys roughly 11,000 years ago as glaciers receded and passages opened. By the time fur trappers and mountain men came to the area, around 24 Native American tribes had connection to the Teton Range. The predominant tribes included the Shoshone, Blackfeet, and Crow, to name a few. While these mountain men and fur trappers came to the area harvesting the hides of animals such as coyotes, wolves, moose, and deer, their main interest was the beaver. The peak fur trade occurred between 1820 to 1840. Beaver pelts were prized for being waterproof and durable, characteristics that made the beaver a hot commodity in men's fashion in the 18th and 19th century. Perhaps no one profited more from beaver pelts more than John Jacob Astor. Astor, born in 1763 in Waldorf, Germany, formed the American Fur Company. It sold furs to markets in New York and London. He is believed to be America's first multimillionaire. Adjusted for inflation, he was worth the equivalent of $276 billion today. Though it is mid-June, we see the peak is covered in snow. This is due to the Rocky Mountain Moisture Channel. Moisture, in the form of clouds and humid air, travels from the Pacific Ocean through a gap between the Cascade and Sierra Ranges. The channel continues along the Snake River Plain, uninterrupted until it meets the sharp, jagged peaks of the Tetons. The nearby town of Jackson Hole receives an average of 465 inches, or over 38 feet of snow annually due to the effect of the Rocky Mountain Moisture Channel. One of the more popular stops in Grand Teton National Park is Jenny Lake. The 1,191-acre, 256-foot-deep lake provides for a fun kayaking destination. If paddling isn't your thing, then take a shuttle boat across the picturesque mountain lake. Looking over the lake is the 12,330-foot Teton Mountain and the 11,435-foot Mount St. John's. In total, there are 12 peaks over 12,000 feet in the park. Encircling the lake is a peaceful trail just over 7 miles in length. However, be cautious of bears. Grand Teton National Park is home to both black and grizzly bears. An average adult male grizzly can stand about 8 feet tall when on their hind legs and weigh between 400 to 790 pounds. Black bears are smaller, with adult male black bears averaging 262 pounds. Other animals found in the park include moose, wolves, mountain lions, and more. We next head to Hidden Falls. From the 100-foot waterfall, one is presented with views of Jenny Lake and Jackson Hole. Just a short half-mile hike up the slope brings us to Inspiration Point. Here we can see Jenny Lake, Cascade Canyon, and the cathedral group comprising of Mount Owen, Teton, and the Grand Teton. Before we continue to Jackson Lake, we must make a stop at Mormon Row and view the John Moulton Barn. At the turn of the 19th century, Mormon homesteaders clustered their farms to share labor and community in the area. One of the most iconic scenes from the park is that of Mormon homesteader John Moulton's barn with the majestic Tetons in the background. Towards the park's northern end is the massive Jackson Lake. Sitting at an elevation of 6,772 feet, Jackson Lake is considered a high-altitude lake. Stretching 15 miles long and 7 miles wide with a depth of 438 feet, it is one of the largest high-altitude lakes in the United States. The dam at Jackson Lake was originally built in 1911 to provide water storage for irrigation for farmers in the Snake River Basin in Idaho. The dam raised the level of the lake by 30 feet. The outflow of the dam is the aforementioned Snake River. Fishing is a popular activity on the river, which is notable for the monstrous sturgeon caught on the river, typically in Idaho. In 2022, an Idaho state record white sturgeon measuring 10 feet 4 inches was caught by Greg Poulsen. We wrap up our brief tour of Grand Teton National Park with a stop at Coulter Bay on Jackson Lake's northeast shore. The settlement is named after John Coulter, a member of Lewis and Clark's expedition to survey the Louisiana Purchase. Coulter Bay was built in the 1950s and today includes a marina, campground, and visitor center, among other points of interest. That concludes our tour of Grand Teton National Park. Thank you for watching.